The island everyone ignored. Greenland looks like nothing. A vast white island at the edge of the map. No skyscrapers. No mega cities. No stock exchanges. Just ice, wind, silence. For centuries, Greenland was treated as irrelevant, a frozen afterthought in world history. But today, that same island is quietly becoming one of the most strategically important pieces of land on Earth. The United States wants it. China is circling it. Russia is militarizing around it. And Europe is nervous about losing influence. This is not about ice. This is not about climate change alone, and this is definitely not about tourism. This is about military dominance, critical minerals, global trade routes, and the future balance of power in a warming world. To understand why Greenland matters today, and why the United States has its eyes locked on it, we must go back more than 1,000 years, to the people who first survived it. To the Vikings who named it. And to the empires that realized, too late, what Greenland really represents. The first people of Greenland, almost equals 400 words. Long before superpowers, satellites, and missiles, Greenland already had inhabitants. The first humans arrived in Greenland around 2500 BCE. These were Inuit and Paleo-Inuit cultures, ancestors of today's Kalaalleq people. They did not conquer Greenland. They adapted to it. They lived in one of the most hostile environments on Earth, temperatures far below freezing. Months of darkness. Violent Arctic winds. And yet, they survived. They hunted seals, whales, and caribou. They fished through ice. They built communities around cooperation, not conquest. For thousands of years, Greenland was not a strategic asset. It was a home. No one came for power. No one came for profit, because there was nothing to extract, and no easy way to leave alive. But that would change in the year 982 AD. The Viking discovery, Eric the Red, almost equals 500 words. In the late 10th century, a Norseman named Eric the Red was exiled from Iceland. Violent. Hot-tempered. Unwelcome. Instead of disappearing, he sailed west, into the unknown. What he found was a massive island covered in ice, but not entirely unlivable. Eric did something brilliant, and deceptive. He named it Greenland. Not because it was green, but because it sounded attractive. It was marketing before marketing existed. Vikings settled along Greenland's southern coast. They farmed. They traded ivory from walrus tusks. They built churches. They believed they had found a new frontier. For nearly 500 years, Viking settlements survived. Then they vanished. Historians still debate why: climate cooling during the Little Ice Age. Isolation from Europe. Conflict with Inuit populations. Economic collapse. What matters is this: Greenland punished those who tried to dominate it. And for centuries after, the island returned to silence. Denmark and colonial control. In the 18th century, Greenland re-entered world politics. Denmark reasserted control, claiming Greenland as part of the Danish kingdom. This was not about prosperity. It was about presence. Greenland became a Danish colony. Over time, Danish missionaries arrived. Trade was centralized. Greenland's autonomy disappeared. By the 20th century, Greenland was legally Danish, but geographically isolated, economically dependent, and politically sidelined. Then World War II changed everything. World War II and America's discovery. When Nazi Germany occupied Denmark in 1940, something strange happened. Greenland was suddenly cut off from Europe. The United States stepped in. Why? Because America realized something the world had missed: Greenland sits between North America and Europe, directly in the path of any transatlantic military movement. During the Cold War, this realization became existential. The U.S. built Thule Air Base in northern Greenland. This was not just a base. It became an early warning system for Soviet missiles. A key radar location. A critical piece of U.S. nuclear defense. If a nuclear missile were launched from Russia, Greenland would see it first. From that moment on, Greenland stopped being a frozen island. It became a shield. The Cold War never really ended. Even after the Cold War, the U.S. never left Greenland. Why? Because geography does not change. Missiles still fly over the Arctic. Satellites still track from polar orbits. And global power still depends on early warning. Today, Thule Air Base, now called Patuxent Space Base, is even more important: space surveillance, missile defense, Arctic dominance. But military strategy is only half the story. The real transformation began when the ice started to melt. Climate change unlocks Greenland. For most of history, Greenland's ice was its defense. Now, that defense is disappearing. As temperatures rise, ice sheets retreat. Land becomes accessible. Resources once buried are exposed. Under Greenland's ice lies enormous wealth: rare earth elements. Uranium, lithium, copper, zinc, iron. These minerals are not optional in the modern world. They are essential for electric vehicles, renewable energy, military weapons, satellites, semiconductors. Here is the problem: China controls most of the global rare earth supply. For the United States, this is a strategic nightmare. Greenland offers an alternative. Not tomorrow. Not cheaply. But eventually. And in geopolitics, eventually is enough. The new Arctic trade routes. Melting ice is doing something else. It is opening new shipping routes. The Arctic routes can cut shipping time between Asia and Europe. Reduce fuel costs. Bypass traditional choke points. This changes global trade. Greenland sits next to these future highways. Whoever controls Greenland controls ports, logistics, security of Arctic trade. In the future, Greenland may not export goods. It may control movement. And movement is power. China and Russia enter the game. China calls itself a near-Arctic state. That alone tells you everything. China has invested in Greenland mining, proposed airports, pushed infrastructure projects. Not for Greenland's benefit, but for access. Russia, meanwhile, is reopening Arctic military bases, deploying nuclear submarines, asserting dominance in polar waters. The Arctic is becoming militarized. For the US, Greenland is no longer optional. It is strategic insurance. Trump and the Greenland shock. In 2019, President Donald Trump said something that shocked the world. He wanted to buy Greenland. The media laughed. Denmark said no. Analysts called it absurd. But the idea was not crazy. It was blunt, but logical. America already defends Greenland. Operates military bases. Funds infrastructure. Trump said the quiet part out loud. After the backlash, the US didn't retreat. It doubled down: more military funding. Diplomatic offices reopened. Deeper Arctic strategy. The joke faded. The strategy stayed. What Greenland itself wants. Greenland is not a prize without a voice. Greenlanders want economic independence. Jobs. Control over their future. They rely heavily on Danish subsidies. Mining could change that, but at a cost. Greenland fears becoming a pawn. An extraction zone. A battlefield without consent. This is the tension: opportunity versus sovereignty. Development versus domination. The future is cold and strategic. Greenland is no longer invisible. It is no longer frozen in history. As the planet warms, Greenland becomes more powerful. Not because of what it produces, but because of where it is. The United States does not want Greenland for today. It wants Greenland for tomorrow's wars, tomorrow's trade, and tomorrow's technology. This is not about ownership. It is about control. And in the New World Order, the Arctic is no longer the edge of the map, it is the center.